All right, this is Speak On It, a live interactive opportunity for you, the audience, to call in here. Now, this is live, so when I say live interactive, you know what I mean? I ain't got no time to slip. So as we trying to get this camera done and I be looking all strange, that's simply because of the fact, now I can see myself. You know when you're trying to do something in the dark, boy, particularly when you got bifocals and you done got to be a senior citizen, you got to be able to see yourself so you know what you're doing. So today what we doing is trying to be correct. It's been a long time since we did a live show. Brother Harold Davis and I broke this facility in a minute ago with the first live show in this facility, but we haven't been back since then. So we're back today with Brother Greg was saying, and we just want to talk about some grown folk stuff. Now, couple of these videos you will see gonna have grown folks language, and they're gonna try to do what they can in there to sort of like tone that down a little bit. But you take care of your own kids, send their little butts somewhere else. Because we can't sit here because you got kid in grown folks' business. We're gonna talk about how some of this mess we in is because grown folks don't take care of their business. But I ain't gonna do no whole lot of talking. Since the last time we was here, we got a new governor. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. We got a new man. We're gonna talk a little bit about that too. But right now, I just want to introduce my guests. Y'all just tell folks who you are, what you want to do. Just take your time, whatever you want to do, and then we'll come back, and then we'll get off into the show. Y'all see that number somewhere? Call in here. Y'all already know. This ain't no debate. This ain't no agreement or not agreement. This is you call in, you got a comment, you got a question, boom, bam, everything cool. Brother Sang.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being here, sir. I know you're a busy man. I thought you was going to be out of town because every time I look on Facebook, you all over the place. Travel more than anybody ever seen. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Hey, look, just trying to make a difference.
Yes, sir.
Great to be on with you, Brother Malik. You are absolutely a kindred spirit of our ancestors. And although we're going to talk about some things, look, I always tell people, a brother who's been mentored and guided by so many individuals. We don't have enough time to name any of them right now, but you know, I consider myself as a community, actor. Mm-hmm. But acting in the right way, because there's some phony actors.
Right.
But I'm acting out our ancestors, I think, hope and dream. I am an activist, but we are the real actors, real actors in terms of love, in terms of commitment, in terms of telling the truth, speaking truth to power. And so whatever subject matters we talk about, whatever it is, man, everything is about how do we change the condition of black people and humanity. So as a member of the new black leadership, nothing new under the sun, but we call it that to incite people, because we do need a fresh cadre of leadership, because the leadership that we currently have is irrelevant. I mean, I give people credit where credit is due, but some of those people, man, they are absolutely disconnected from the real struggle of everyday people. So whether we talk about the new governor, the new mayor, the new this, the new that, the bottom line is, what are they going to do? What did the so-called new first black president do for the condition of black people? So I'm tired of celebrating people that really leave us in the same damn condition that they found us in. And everybody say what you want to hear. Everybody say what you want to hear. But they scared, bro. That's why I'm associate of, I'm a commentary at times on the Butt Naked Truth. He'll tell you about what he does. But for me, and you know I run a program at CPS, and it's a very successful and effective program because of the love we got for people. Hell, Safe Passage or whatever it is, hey, it's about how you feel about people, period. Right. Whether they psychedelic, but at the end of the day, do you care? Can you train them? Can you do the stuff that really makes a difference? And that's who you are. And that's why we here. So at the end of the day, yeah, I'm busy, but I'm glad to be sitting in the room with somebody like you, brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Brother Hal. Butt naked truth.
Butt naked, unadulterated.
And you know, like Greg, I'm honored to be here. I've been doing shows with you in Boise over 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, like Greg, you know, my concern is the least of these. And it looks like everybody gets the benefit off the least of these, but the least of these don't get any benefits. And so when you look at what we see, I think the numbers were 50-something shot, 5 murdered since Wednesday, and we still got Saturday and Sunday to go. And so you know, when you look at the madness that's going on out here, Lee, I mean, we were in a shootout Tuesday on 87th State, you know, coming, you know, at the radio station and walking to the gas station, which is a couple doors down. And I was inside the store, and Rob, one of the engineers, was at the gas station. And as I saw the guys in the gas station, you know, selling weed, you know, openly. And the guy behind the counter, the air behind the counter was giving them change as they were selling the bags.
Wow.
And so then this other guy walked in, and I was sitting there like, man, I wonder if they, you know, I could be the police. And, I mean, they was like, wasn't nothing.
Right.
And so the other guy walked in and he didn't say anything, and I was walking out. Man, 3 seconds after walking out, man, pop, 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 pop. You know, so I started running. You know, and I look up Rob running behind me, and the guys they shooting at running behind us. One of the guys got shot, was in the parking lot, you know, 87th Street. Last Friday at the McDonald's a block away, 2 people got shot. They got a carnival across the street. Saturday, some people got shot, and then this thing happened. So, I mean, right there in the heart at 4:30 in the afternoon, people coming off the train, kids walking down the street, little girls dancing on 87th Street, and they break out and start shooting. So, we got a lot of work to do in terms of what this phenomenon of where these guns are basically coming from, and the young people who are shooting the guns. I mean, it's a phenomenon based, you know, in terms of the mindset. I'm struggling with what makes you shoot at 4:30 in the afternoon. What makes somebody drive from Champaign, Urbana, at 9 o'clock in the morning and shoot a young lady holding a baby? I mean, the mindset is really, I mean, mind-boggling.
That's what we're talking about.
Of what we got to deal with, Doc.
It's true, and that's what we're talking about, and that's the spirit in which we want to do this. Brothers DeVars, but you are Mr. McDonald, in order to save time, when we get ready to go to the break, go back to the original plan where we cut off a lot of the music and go straight into the message of the music. But we'll get to that. I just wanted to tell you that, yeah, audience, you can hear that because it's all real. But we need to save time because we got something to say, and we ain't got time to be looking at people beating no drums. We need to be beating our lips. So that's what we're doing here. Now,
Can I say something?
oh
real
yes,
quick?
sir, you can.
Just real quick. When Harold was talking about the shooting and just randomly all over the city, I went to a training about a couple of weeks ago. Brother named, many people know Brother Old Leminji. And it was about stopping bleeding. Most of our people don't know. So with all this trauma, we still need to have some kind of experience, training, to know that we can save a life.
Yeah.
Because the police or paramedics, they can't be there.
Right.
So people dying because we don't even know how to apply pressure
Right.
on someone to save their life, and it's happening right in front of us. And I said that, and this is a realistic plug, because when you mention somebody got shot here, shot there, a lot of people's lives can be saved if we just had training.
Right.
But I mean, now the psychological madness, as Harold said, the mentality,
Right.
oh my God, man, that's a whole nother conversation But damn, man, we really in trouble.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we really have to do is accept the fact that we've become so programmed now. We don't want to do nothing but record video and see who can get the most views
Teach.
and the most like on social media. And it carries us, anyway, we've got to be back on schedule because I'm finna go somewhere. All right, let's pull the spirit up. And I'm gonna tell you why I want to pull the spirit up here. When Mayor Lightfoot said in her inauguration address that she grew up in a church and she mentioned this song, Please Don't Pass Me By. When she mentioned that song, I knew that she was the right one for this job. Because you can't go to church in that environment and hear this song unless you're real. And as I looked at her mama, I said, now here's a person here that has no pretense. I'm talking about the man. And the bottom line is, as I looked at her and thought about where she might have been in Ohio, looked at her family, and thought about how it might be, the Spirit guided me to something on YouTube with Fantasia. No harm, Fantasia. Don't sue me, baby girl. But Fantasia is a po-thang type of sister. You look at her and she reminds you of The Color Purple when they had that woman moving down. So this little video, y'all, it might be sort of entertaining, but go on and get your Kleenex or whatever y'all call them, or your handkerchief, or wash your hands so you can drop them tears instead of spoiling your clothes. Come on with it, brother. McDonald's, let's deal with this. It's very brief.
We come into the church to join together in the sharing of our faith. We stand under God together for eternal salvation from the sins of this world. This we do without rest. Let the church say amen. I don't know if you hear me this morning, but to stand together. When we stand together, it does not mean that we stand against each other when we fall down in the living of our lives. All right. For how can we share in God's love if we cannot share in His compassion? Ask me now, all good to say, Amen. Hear my humble cry. Why on earth thou
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is this. Yes, that song has a lot of energy. But I think what happened is our condition is because we passed it by, the church. I'm not talking about this fake pimp in the pulpit type of church. I'm talking about that church that caught the spirit of those ancestors in the cemetery behind the church. That's what you felt there, and that's what I imagined. But since we got so sophisticated and so smooth and so delicate and so mega, we lost something. And what we lost is common sense. So when the mayor talked about those points, and she talked about integrity, something that you don't never hear of no more. You say, what the world? She talked about some basic stuff that has been left alone, and now we are alone. And I think, because both of you all mentioned it, I think the problem with us in our communities is not necessarily just the gun or the type of weapon. It's the attitude and mentality. The attitude and mentality is what make us do that. And we will see in a minute what happened on the 4th of July. But now, you know, and I know these men's time very important, and I feel a little bit guilty using this information that I'm using instead of giving them an opportunity to talk, but in a minute, we're gonna get to that. But there's some basic stuff that I didn't wanna do this conversation by myself, so they are here and we'll deal with it, but we need to get through this. Now, let's do this piece where this brother is talking about the 4th of July. And let me just say this. One of the biggest problems this weekend with all of this happening started at the last holiday. Illegal fireworks. Now, you're celebrating something that you ain't got no business celebrating, but every time you pop a firework, you pull up the spirit of Ogun, the spirit of war. I go out yesterday. Play this, man, we'll get to that. I don't want to get off schedule.
4th of July, and I'm finished. Just take me a minute on this one. I don't want to take advantage because I know you got other things to do, but 4th of July. Why do I refer to it as the 4th of July? White folks came to me and said, black man, if you help me win my freedom from the tyranny of King George, I will give you your freedom. Because every one of those dogs that wrote, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, were either slave holders or had made their fortune off of the slave trade in some way or form or fashion. All 54 of those dirt farmers that met at the First and Second Continental Congress, and Jews among them. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington. I don't know where the city of Washington is. I know where Banneker City is. I live near Banneker City. I don't know where no damn Washington is. I wouldn't name anything after him. I don't even like mentioning his name. He died as a result of catching pneumonia in the slave quarters after raping a black woman. And that's recorded by white historian Arnold Toynbee. He had over 350-some slaves. Sold one slave, traded him for a hog's head of rum. Father of whose country? Certainly not mine. And to make my children look up to this dog is mental genocide. Thomas Jefferson, the great architect of freedom, who wasn't misguided entertainer, saying, the one who wrote the document and signed the document that freed all men. It did not free all men. It only freed the rich landed gentry. in the 13 colonies. It didn't even free the common man in the 13 colonies. And it damn sure didn't free us. He had slaves, and he had this penchant for messing with adolescent girls, impregnating them, and when he had the black babies from those girls, from those slave girls, he would take them at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and work them in his nail factory. I'm supposed to honor that? The shot that was heard around the world, I'll be finishing in a minute. The shot that was heard around the world was not fired at Lexington, and it wasn't even heard around the world. The rest of the world didn't give a damn about it. Excuse me for cussing so much. That bullet landed in the chest of Crispus Attucks, which I am not proud of, because he was a chump, a misguided chump. Why you say that, Brother Shaka? Why you be so cold? He just come off the plantation himself. And now he gonna stand there and fight for the slave owner. If you got to catch a bullet for something, catch it for them brothers and sisters back there wanting their freedom. And they repaid him by celebrating his birthday until they came up with the July 4th thing. On March the 5th, they call it Crispus Attucks Day, and they made a statue to him with a white woman standing over top of an eagle, spread his wings, just had his name. He put his picture on it. That's how much they thought about him. But one of the British generals came here because, see, what had happened is the British started recruiting the black slaves. Said, we're going to put a gun in your hand. Okay. We're going to put a gun in your hand. And we're going to let you shoot at white folks. Blood started joining the British Army by the hundreds and thousands. And so George Washington, who didn't want black folks in the army in the first place, said, we don't arm the blacks, we're not going to win this war. And one of the generals that came over here said, we're not at war with the 13 colonies, we're at war with Ethiopia. There were so many black folks there in that war. Now, after we won the war for them, they plunged us deeper in slavery than ever we had been. I'm going to read this closing statement. I'm really finished now. On the 4th of July. I'm going to call on Brother Frederick Douglass now, who said it so well. And the white folks can really be arrogant. They call this man an ex-slave, fighting for the abolition of other slaves, to come in the year 1852 and give a speech on his love for America on their 76th anniversary of America's independence. And old Fred came. Yes, he did. And this is what Fred said. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? Our answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days of the year the gross injustice and cruelties to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless, your denunciation of tyrants brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality hollow mockery, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgiving, with all your religious parades and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, deceptions, and pious hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world, travel through South America, search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts side by side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival. Brothers and sisters, that is what the 4th of July and any other European holiday means to me. So when you are celebrating, make sure you are celebrating that which has brought life to you, which has enhanced your life, which has advanced your life, which is a part of your great and glorious history. For if you celebrate the defeat of your enemy over you, you will be a fool. And we are being called back to be the wise kings and queens of the earth once again. Don't blow this opportunity. Peace be with you.
Now, 1852, Frederick Douglass. Let's take a few minutes, y'all, and let's just process that.
Malcolm said you've been hoodwinked, you've been bamboozled, you've been had. So we have been taught that, you know, the truth will set you free. We are enslaved by misinformation, by lies. That's why when you introduce Harold, I always love to say the butt naked truth is what we just heard again. So we are in this dilemma. Well, I mean, we in a rock in a hard place, because when you talk about government and you talk about someone with integrity, so you know, you look at those dynamics, but then you come back to the mindset of our people where we have assimilated, and so we afraid to break free because we've gotten so accustomed to this government. We live in this country, America. I heard a fool this morning on a radio show to come on Saturday morning trying to paint this patriotic foolishness. Look, you are a patriotic hypocrite if you mistreat me and you walk by me. Ain't no love there. So why the hell am I gonna be celebrating anything that's robbing the poor? And at the end of the day, when you went to the gas station this morning or last night, whenever you go, prices went up. Ain't no love. In a capitalistic city, a country that's built on greed, man. Every holiday is about money. And hey, we had gatherings, but not at the extent that we doing now. Didn't cost us lives, and didn't cost us all this money. And people want to debate. Even the preachers in the church, you know damn well Jesus wasn't born on December the 25th. I ain't gonna get into that, but it's foolishness. And then you try to defend it and say you anointed. What the hell that mean? You anointed and you pushing a white Santa Claus. Come on, man.
I mean, not just that.
That's true.
I mean, 1852, we had 1/2 or 1% of the wealth in this country.
Wow.
Black people. 2019, we got 1/2 or 1% of the wealth in this country. The Kearney Commission just did a 50-year,
Wow.
Go back 50 years and measured where we are today. And that 50-year report basically said that we were better off in 1968 than we are today.
Wow.
And so when you look at, the things that took place with King and we had 400 black elected officials in 1968, now we had 13,500. And to be worse off today than we were in 1968, 65% of black people lost their homes, and the mortgage crisis in 2009, 2010.
Wow.
And right now, right here in Illinois, Doc, black men in Illinois are at the bottom, have the highest unemployment rate in the country for the last 18 quarters.
Illinois.
In Illinois. And so 18 quarters means that's 2.5 years. They go in quarters, And so when you look at, we're at the bottom of the 16 economic indicators that they measure wealth by. We came in last place. And so to look at the 60s and look at what took place with Fred Hampton Sr. and Martin King and all the things that went on, and then fast forward in 1994, the crime bill that Clinton put into place that was actually orchestrated and architected by Joe Biden. And now a
Jeez.
77-year-old man is saying he wants to run for president to represent the
Right.
country. I mean, here's a man his record is that he was the architect of the crime bill when 23 out of 39 black congressional people signed off on it, including Bobby Rush. And from that crime bill, 1994, under the Clinton administration for 8 years, 628,000 black men went to jail. 3 strikes and you're out was put into play. Welfare to work was put into play, and the welfare to work alone, and the 3 strikes and you're out. George Bush Sr. wouldn't even sign off on it. I mean, that was Clinton signed, but he wouldn't sign off on it. And so then you fast forward into 2007, 2011 in Chicago alone, they spent $2.5 billion locking black men up in 5 zip codes: Austin, North Lawndale, Roseland, Inglewood, West Humboldt Park. In those 5 zip codes is the same highest crime, the highest murder rate, all the crime is taking place, the murders are taking place, highest unemployment rate, and they spent $2.5 billion during this 4-year period. And then at the same time, the county spent $800 million not allowing bond for nonviolent offenders. And so that $800 million went into play, $2.5 billion. On one block in Austin, on Cicero and Adams, they spent $2.5 million locking up
Christ.
people on the block. And so there's an article called $1 Million Blocks that was written by the Washington Post. Go read it. There were 1,107 blocks that they spent over $1 million on, locking up 75% of black men in these 5 zip codes, in which 85% of them were nonviolent. And so when you look at that, and then you fast forward from 2011 to 2019, and just last year, those 5 zip codes paid $200 million in the $250 million in parking tickets. Those same 5 zip codes that made less than $15,000 a year, 10,000 people filed bankruptcy in the attempt to get their cars back. 82% of the cars were sold. 79% of the people lost their jobs, couldn't get to work. And so we can go on and on and on, but everything that's happening in Chicago is happening in these same 5 zip codes. But when you look at somebody decided in 2007 to 2011 and saying we're gonna lock up 75% of the black men in these 5 zip codes, we didn't recover from what Clinton did. Right. And so now you have grandfathers. I went to jail a couple months ago, and I went to see a young man downstate, and they asked me which one. And when I gave his name, they said, well, there's 3 of them here. His grandfather, his daddy, and him. And I mean, these are the kind of things, Doc, that somehow somebody orchestrated something. And now you have this mindset where you have institutions and organizations that are representing the oppressed people in the community, institutions and organizations that have no integrity,
Right.
getting all the grant money.
Right, it's true.
And so that's a whole nother issue that we broke down the other day on, and I'm gonna close with this, the $100 million that Quinn put into play in 2011, 2012. There were 23 lead agencies that all got over $4.5 million. And if you look at who got the money, it's the same suspects.
Right.
And so what I'm suggesting, what I told Mary Mitchell the other day, I said, I want you to go back 30 years, Mary. Pull the line items for crime and for violence initiative, Recovery Act, and whatever it is that money was put in to, at some point, say they're gonna stop crime. And go back and measure 30 years and those organizations and see if crime went up or went down. And if it went up, then we need to say, well, who are these people, these same usual suspects that continue to get all these millions of dollars, but nothing changes? And so that neighborhood recovery initiative, I had $92 million, $77 million went for salaries. 77 million. $5 million went for travel. The least of these who they were supposed to have been helping, the kids got 80,000, the parents got 50,000. And there was 10 million unaccounted for. Ain't nobody in jail.
Right.
And so these are the things that I think, Doc, that need to be looked at, because no amount of money is going to fix this thing if there is no empowerment. Like in every society around the world, when the males are empowered, then things change.
Yeah.
For some reason, nothing that they do in terms of government funding or these grants empowers the black male. And so that's the major problem that we have.
And Harold, you know, and real quick, when you mentioned Joe Biden, who did he come to town to embrace after he was called on the carpet by, what's her name, Kamala Harris? She called him on the carpet. He came to Jesse
Right.
and got a big hug. So they go to Jesse and Sharpton.
Oh, yeah.
Are they front men? See, it's a shame. See, so when you talk about, and look, nobody takes away any little good or whatever good you've done, but you have arrived at a place now where none of those stats that Harold just quoted mean nothing to them.
I mean, what Doc showed, Fantasia, pass me not. I mean, go into these
Please.
churches, go into the NAACP Urban League, go anywhere you want to go in the black community and see who they're talking to. They're not talking to young people. Young people not in there.
Right.
They're talking to people. Jesse had Elizabeth Warren at his push convention. It wasn't 50 people in the building. And so I wonder if she came to the conclusion that there's nobody in here that under 60 years old. Sharpton bought Kamala Harris. There was nobody in there under 60 years old. And so when I look at these churches, Doc, and I look at these organizations, and I look at institutions, and I see who the leaders are talking to,
Yeah.
they are totally out of touch, brother.
Disconnected.
Totally out of touch.
And I think that's where the ritual current piece come in. And one of the things that I like to keep throwing is
Love that too.
and we was all here, me, Olamenji, Brother Sane as the advisor, and Harold and Boise, and it was the deal with just what we looking at. The retro being the seniors, the current being the young people.
Teach.
But now what's happening is that Obama came and disrupted the link. So now that he's out of the way, Jesse is the man again in the mind of those people. But it's a whole new world now, and the only thing left is those of us that didn't die. Because Jesse didn't die, he see what's happening, but you can't go back to that. And I think what's happening is, had Obama not been elected then and that Clinton lady would have been elected, Obama could have been president now. But once we switched that link, Jesse got disconnected, Sharpton got disconnected, and now here we are, passed by. And I think, okay, I'm sorry, caller, I understand there's a caller. All right, caller. I guess the caller gone.
But 8 years, Brother Malik, they didn't let Jesse in the White House.
Exactly.
Right.
Biden didn't let him
Disconnect.
through the back door,
Exactly.
but you gonna come and see him now. 8 years. They let Sharpton go in and out. You know, he's in the form. But anyway, you know, he worked for him. But at the end of the day, Marvin Gaye said, "Who really cares?"
Right.
That's a spiritual song. That album right there is spiritual.
Right.
Everything in there was about save the babies. Save the babies. And so now when you look at the word integrity, when you look at what Harold just mentioned, who's at these tables? Why would you want another grant? Why you want some money? That money is to feed the people. That money is to help the people, but they give it to the same suspects because they know they're not going to do nothing with it. They are some formidable, they are some very powerful, effective organizations that they don't talk to.
Right.
They go to those that they know don't really love the people.
And it's true. And I think let's do this, Mr. McDonald. Let's fast forward, and we really won't do any commentary review. Just look at the attitude of these people. Now, we all know that on the 4th of July at Navy Pier, you had 3 or 4 people stabbed, and you had a stampede. 14 or so hurt. But it wasn't on guns, it was stabbed. But all of that came because of what? A firework. Something that was illegal in the community, but legal there. So it wasn't about the gun. You still had an idiot that created and put lives at risk. Now, the mayor can't do nothing about that. The superintendent can't do nothing about that. Parents can't do nothing about that. Now, show us, whichever comes first, Mr. McDonald, you can play either the Navy Pier piece or the piece on the west side where those young people are just doing them. Come on with that so we can get back on track.
Look, they turned around. Right there, turn around.
Let me see the video.
They just saw that shit, boy.
It's true. Now, that was madness. We don't have time to sit here and break down all of that, so I'm gonna keep commentary out of it because it speaks for itself. What happened at Navy Pier is an insult. But what we saw with those young people doing them is how it get out of hand. They just in the hood doing them. What can the police do about that? Nothing. Because they was making mockery of the police. And since the police is little white boys and white girls and Hispanic boys and Hispanic girls a half a year older than they are, they don't have no rank. But yet you can't find a 27-year-old black man or black woman and let her be the police because their credit is burnt up, but it was burnt up by their mama. That's the game you play with black people. And then we look at what we just saw, madness. Now we're going to show you another piece of madness. Show this piece of madness, Mr. McDonald, and it has nothing to do with this show. But it's the mentality of the police. Then we're going to come to that, and then we're going to take a 2-second break so we can get to this governor piece because I need Brother Sang and Brother Harold to help us understand this marijuana trick. See, one of the things about live shows is because you don't do them, people don't know you live. So people don't, back in the day, we have so many calls because people expected it. Right. But this system they got now, a live call-in show, who knows? You can place it on Facebook, you can place it here, you can place it there. But folks got things to do. You have to cultivate audiences like you do on your show and like you do on your show. Well, the bottom line is, it's tragic because this facility came out of another facility. And it was popping. But somebody, I think, made a decision. We will never let Negroes have that type of leverage again where they can sit down here and influence elected officials who get in and who get out. So they killed that. And that's the sadness because here we are with a live show and the 1 or 2 calls we got, we didn't even get them in, so it is what it is. Show us this thing with this police. I don't know all what's involved. I want the people to see, and I want us to talk about briefly the mentality of the police and what they did to that man, although he could have stayed out of it, what they did to him in front of his children. Come on, Mr. McDonald.
I am sick. Back away. We're in our crime scene. Back away. Hey, don't touch me. Don't touch me. You're going to be resistant. Knock it off. Don't touch me. Put your hands behind your back. 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 Take his phone. Put it behind your back.
Why are you taking him? Hey, why are you taking him? Hey! He's fucking!
Stay in the car.
Stay in the car.
You're making my kids cry. You're making my kid cry.
Why are you doing that to him? Hey, man! You record the whole thing?
I'm recording everything.
Yes! Yes!
Daddy!
What was he doing? He was recording! He wasn't doing anything
He
for
was in our
recording!
crime scene. We asked him to step away 3 times. And he kept resisting.
That's fucked up, man. All he was doing was recording, bro. That's fucked up, dude. We got kids in the car. We're not doing anything wrong, bro. What are you doing, man?
When you're told to step back from an investigation, you step back. That's called obstruction. That's why. Interference and obstruction with the police purpose.
The white shirt.
Now, we threw that out. It speaks for itself. You had your reaction. But we got to talk about how all of these Negroes are celebrating marijuana, weed, and weep. They don't understand it, but that's what they celebrate. And they putting their hope into dope, where they know that the dope that they will buy will not be the dope they've been smoking and getting high on. So all it has done is made the outlaw the law. And what happened is, now that the law is going to become the dope man, we just wanted to use a little bit of Pusher Man by Curtis Mayfield and just look at how it is that we are being misdirected. Come on with it, brother. Well, while he coming, Harold Davis is going to help us understand how much it's going to cost to get a license. All right, sir.
Okay. Damn. Boy.
Down on congas, tumbas, and bongos, everybody.
Yeah.
Can I say this real quick?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The black man, before Harold, give those stats and the reality of this whole marijuana. The black man, young man, sells marijuana to pay his bill. He in jail for trying to pay his bill. Just like the bootleg, the prohibition of alcohol. Now, the government says that they want to pay their bills by selling marijuana. Come on, you hypocrites.
True.
I mean, it's sad, it's sick, and they make evil fair seeming.
Yes.
Make evil fair seeming. That other little piece real quick, race and equity is a big deal, man.
Yeah.
And until we fix that, we're gonna keep having these injustices.
It's true.
The bottom line is we need to police ourselves.
Yes.
And what you saw there was someone else occupying your community because you are not taking charge of your responsibility. And then you also saw a clip of us at a savage state where we've lost the knowledge of ourselves. So we're seeing the derivatives of a neglected people. And then the elitists, they don't care.
Right.
And so when people try to reach the mindset of the young, it's a bunch of other con men in front of them. But this whole marijuana piece, it's hypocrisy. And then they clean it up. And then, but believe me, Harold know all of this stuff, where by the time black people get involved with any of that, they already privatize this, privatize that. I mean, they making money off of misery. Misery and pain is what people profit now.
It's the truth.
It won't be any black people actually involved. There's a $100,000 non-refundable application fee. And so what they're telling black people is go get 20 investors, $5,000 apiece. So if y'all don't get the application in, you only lost $5,000. What they didn't tell you in this bill is that the 55 dispensaries across the state that are owned by 55 white men will get first crack at the applications. And so that tells you right that the only involvement that we may be able to get is a guy like L.Z. Hickenbottom may be able to come in, or a guy like the Rand brothers. They may be able to come in through the back door as a silent partner.
But let me just say this. What about Reverend Dr. Willie Wilson?
Oh yeah, well he may be able to.
Is he going to try to do this?
Well, he told me he was going to try to get in.
Oh, okay.
But the problem, Doc, is that they can't. The demand for marijuana in these states that have legalized it for recreation. I think Illinois is the 13th state. They can't keep up with the demands. And so what they're doing now is they're actually buying marijuana at the dispensaries from the illegal growers. Because these laws, one of the things that they changed was they said judges, law enforcement, prosecutors, and all them could not be involved in it, but now they've changed that law and say you don't have to disclose that now. So if I sent you to jail, I can now profit off. One of the biggest profiteers of the marijuana industry is the former Speaker of the House, Jack Boehner. I mean, he's making, they said $100 million already. I think the Pritzker family has about $38 billion invested.
Not the governor.
Yeah, the family, the Pritzker family. I saw black people, Troy Hutchinson and black state representatives, state senators laughing and jumping up and down, crying about this marijuana bill. And I'm like, we got it. But the fact of the matter is that the companies that are in already have already started to hire. And so you got 55 companies already in the hopper. But here's the other trick. There's a $46 million in the budget, $46 million away from that budget, $46 million for roads and construction, $46 billion. Who's going to get that money?
46.
I mean, $46 billion for road improvements, tollway and all this. who's gonna get that money? But then they also slid in the video poker gambling, where there are 55 white companies that are in that made $6 billion last year, where they're gonna go from, they're gonna double the bets from $2 to $4 and add another machine. Those companies, the guy who wrote the legislation for that ran for governor, what's his name, Bradley, and him and a couple other people who wrote the legislation have made millions. And so the inside trader was, you sit back, you say, well, here's the marijuana thing. No, here's the video poker. They had 3 companies that made, 55 companies, Doc, made on average of $328 million last year. And so the video poker is another thing that we have no involvement. The only person they can trace the video poker was Deborah Sims. That's the only one that's on the county that she was some kind of consultant.
Okay.
But these billions of dollars that passed, the only actual hope that we have is to get involved in the hemp program. That's it. And I'll tell you why. Up until 1942, hemp was legally grown in America. And most of the hemp that was grown in America went to World War II for ropes and all kind of stuff. George Washington Carver invented 300 things from hemp. They don't talk about the peanut.
Right.
Now, the hemp, 35% of the hemp in America was grown in Pembroke, where black farmers were out there growing it, but haven't grown nothing since 42. So if we're gonna grow some hemp, we better ride out to Pembroke.
Go
Because
back
the
to
ground is already fertile for
That's
us.
true.
Yes, sir.
It's true. Well, we're going to close out with Curtis Mayfield instead of that other piece, just so we can bring the spirit back to the streets. Come on, Mr. McDonald. Let's do these 2 minutes with Curtis.
And the hemp is where the money is.
Yeah.
That marijuana,
Make you mad, but you want it
buzz
to
is
be.
right around the corner.
I got a woman I love just for me. I wanna give her something better than me. I've been told I can't be nothing else. I'm just a hustler in spite of myself. I know I can breathe. This life just don't need Lord, Lord. But I gotta be mellow. I gotta get mellow, y'all. Gotta be mellow now.